All right, just give me a go whenever.
No, you can start right now. That's fine.
Okay, cool. Well, hi everybody. Good morning. Um, welcome to Code Day. I guess I don't know if this is your first event of the day. I saw the schedule. There's a lot of stuff happening today, so I'm sure everybody's going to have a great time. So I'm Ratik, and I'm a senior anode engineer at Fueled, which is this creative agency based out of New York. And I've been writing code professionally for about 6 years. 3 years at one organization, 3 years at my current one, and I'm super excited to be speaking to everybody just about how that's been and what's it like doing that. And as you can see, the topic for my talk today is the core ingredient of building software. And there's a bit that's redacted there, as you can see at the in the bottom right. I promise you, I'll reveal what that is soon. Uh, but I just want to get going and get started with this uh, and see where we go. So simply put, my talk is about like how is software actually built, and I'm going to give you the answer right off the bat, and then use the next 20 minutes or so to take you through the journey I've been on to kind of realize this answer. So, how is software actually built? Teams. And I'm not talking about Microsoft Teams at all. I think that needs to stay away from all software engineers. I think it hinders us more than anything. I'm talking about software teams and more specifically, product teams. So, what exactly is a product team? What does a product team look like? So, I'll give you a very general makeup of what a product team can look like when you're working in an organization. So, it obviously starts with software engineers or like people who write code. I'm sure a lot of us at this event today are people who write code, know how to write code, love how to write code. But then there's also folks like software testers, which will be people who will work closely with engineers and the rest of the team to test what we're building because we don't want to ship bug bugs to the users basically. Then there's product managers. It could be one, could be a few as well. It depends on the kind of product team you're on. Then we obviously have some designers because we need our products to look nice and also feel nice and make sure that the experience is nice, which is where we can have UX researchers or just user experience researchers who work with the designers and the product manager and to make sure that the experience being delivered to users is top notch. And finally, we have this role of a project manager often as well. And I'll obviously get into details of what all these people do and how this team works together. So that brings me back to the topic that I showed you at the beginning, the core ingredient of building software. I said teams, but this only really applies to like medium to large scale software because, as all of us know, you can write software and build things on your own. A lot of us here today probably started out like that. If you're just getting started in your journey in learning code, you can do stuff on your own, and that's totally possible. Even I started as somebody just learning stuff on my own because I was interested in it, which puts us right into the section of the talk where I kind of just want to give a brief history of me because I think that's going to be important in understanding why I answered the question with product teams, because that's just what my experience has told me. So I'll be super quick with this because this isn't the meat of this presentation. So 96 to 2002, early years, just obviously growing up. Uh, s- and then 2002 to 2010 is when I actually just start really liking tech and using computers and just being completely enamored by computers and just every chance I get of using a computer, I'm on board. I love playing games online. This was like back in obviously early years, pre 2010. 2010 to 2012, the internet is everywhere. I've kind of learned how to build small websites. They teach us HTML in school. That's exciting. I pick up some CSS skills on the internet. Um, 2012 is when I, for the first time, study computer science because I ended up taking it as a subject in 11th grade, which is something I really wanted to do. Because again, love for tech and computers all my life. And this is when I like learned how to write code. Uh, I guess you could say formally for the first time. 2014, I ended up going to college to study mathematics. That's a whole different story, which I don't think we have time to get into today. But the short summary is I just liked it, so I ended up picking it. But still, really wanting to get into a tech career after university, which is what I did with a lot of luck and a lot of struggling. I somehow got that first job in 2017 after university, and this was at uh, a nonprofit startup called Miraki. That's where I got that job, and I ended up working there for 3 years. And yeah, I was super happy. I finally had a job which paid me, albeit less, but paid me decent money to write code. And I was finally that solo software developer that I wanted to be, and I wanted to make things and write code. And as the years went on, I obviously also became a lonely and software developer. So I was working alone in this small team. I was the only developer there, and don't get me wrong, it was great. Like the whole team was amazing, and but there was only one person working on tech, so I was doing everything like from design to writing code to like managing what we were doing. Um, and this kind of weighed down on me over time, and I eventually left in 2020. I wrote about it, like a small blog post on my website, and I was in this space where I was uh, basically craving a team, a product team, and that's what led me to where I am working today, which is this company called Fueled, where it's a much larger organization. And again, I wrote about why I chose Fueled, and there's like some story there that if anybody wants, they can go and read. But I was finally here, working as a software engineer with a team, the product team that I wanted and craved, honestly. And yeah, this is kind of what my day to day looks like now. Whenever I'm working on things, these are the roles and the kinds of people I'm working with. And now I think I want to, now that you know a little bit about me and you know what the product team can look like, I wanted to take you through how building a product might look like with a team, because that's something I've learned over the last 3 years at least. So how is software actually built by a team is what we're answering now. And we'll remember that I'm talking about medium to large scale software apps. So uh, everybody knows like video games are built by large teams. Even like modern apps these days are built by teams. Instagram has a lot of software engineers working for them. WhatsApp was built by a small team, but still a team. Um, so I'm going to take an example to kind of explain how this works. And we're going to assume that we are a software engineer at Code Day, for example, and we are part of the Code Day mobile team as a software engineer, and we have all these actors in our team. Now, the Code Day mobile app is made up of a bunch of features. So obviously, it'll be feature A, feature B, feature C. This could be anything. Um, I'm going to assume that we're building feature A today, and it's a very simple feature. And I want all of you to imagine you as the software developer on this team. And feature A is basically just a screen on the app, and we are building, let's assume, maybe a list of events or any list, basically a list of speakers, a list of um, talks happening. That's what we're building. And let's start with what the design phase would look like for this feature. So building this would start with a design phase, and the product manager becomes really important when we enter the design phase, because the product manager is somebody who orchestrates everything in this team. So they collaborate with engineers, they collaborate with the testers, they collaborate with the designers, and make sure that the product is getting built how it needs to be built. They also will talk to business people in the team, in the organization, and the business also drives what is to be built. But that bit is a bit out of scope for this presentation. So um, the product manager will talk to the business people. They'll figure out, okay, we need to build this feature where we need to show a list of talks. Then they'll work with the designers and the researchers to design this, because we obviously need to make sure what we're shipping to users is nicely designed. So UX researchers will go out, talk to some existing hackathon goers, conference goers, and ask them, hey, do you want this feature we want to build? Do you want a way for us to, I don't know, add a Google Calendar integration into the app so that you can add the talks to your calendar? And then they'll come back, talk to the product manager and the designers, and they'll together put together a design, which, let's assume this is the design. Obviously, it's super bare bones. It is more fleshed out than this. The designer will pick colors, what fonts to use, what text that needs to be there, and they'll put together this design uh, that needs to be built. Then we slowly transition into the dev phase, from the design phase, where the product manager again needs to now collaborate with different people on the team. And this is done using one of the first ceremonies that a product team can go through. And this first ceremony is what is often called grooming. So what does grooming look like? So the grooming ceremony, it's pretty simple. So it's basically a meeting where the product team meets and they discuss whatever needs to be built in the next n weeks. Now, this N could be 1 week, it could be 2 weeks, it could be 3 weeks, although, in my opinion, it shouldn't go beyond that, because as soon as you start planning for a big chunk of time, um, that planning doesn't always pay off because things change as you make things. So let's assume for this example that it's 2 weeks. So the product team will come together and they'll discuss what needs to be built. So the product manager will talk to the engineers and the testers and tell them, hey, this is what we need to build. Feature A is this. What do you think? The team talks and they refine the features. So the engineers will basically have clarifying questions. So they might ask things like, okay, so we're building a list of things. Do we need a search feature on this, for example? Or do we need, what happens if the user goes back? So they might have these questions, and that's what they use to refine the feature, which is why we call this a grooming session. After this session, the product manager updates the feature's specifications based on whatever they learn from this. And then we can have the next ceremony, which happens a couple of days after this, um, which is the planning ceremony. So the planning meeting is again follows right from grooming, and this is where the team again meets. And what they do is they come together and they assign something called software estimates to the things that need to be built over the next 2 weeks in this case. Now, software estimation is a big topic, and I don't really want to go into it in this talk. But I'd highly encourage people who are interested in knowing more about estimation to Google it and read about it. There's tons of resources out there on YouTube, and I'm sure there's blogs as well. But why estimation is important is because you want a rough sense of how much time things will take so that you know when you can deliver features, when you can release to users, and all that good stuff. So the estimates happen, and after that, the product manager can kick off the development cycle for the team. So everything is set at this point. The planning's done. Everybody knows what's being built, and the software engineers can get to actually building the features. So this is where the dev phase kicks in, where it's the engineers and the testers that kind of work together to deliver things. And they obviously do that with the help of product managers. It's a close collaboration between these three parts of the team, where the engineers will write code, build things, the testers will test this. If they find any bugs, they can come back and talk to the engineers and the product managers in some kind of meeting or ceremony, and the software engineers can go and fix those bugs, or the product manager can be like, okay, no, this is not a bug, we can get to it later, let's keep building. And so a lot of these conversations happen in the form of another ceremony, which is called the daily huddle. It has a lot of names. I just went with daily huddle because I like it. And what a daily huddle is like is, well, it's daily. So the team meets daily, for a quick 15 minutes. The idea is to keep these very quick. And what these huddles can look like is basically each team member discusses what they worked on yesterday, what they will be working on today, and if they are stuck on anything. So this is where the testers can talk about bugs they found in software that's being developed, and then the team can talk through it. So after that quick 15 minutes, um, smaller groups can get created from the larger team. So maybe one engineer wants to talk to a designer about a particular bug. So they can just go off, talk separately. The idea is to keep these light and not bog people down with these long meetings every day. And that's what keeps the team going, and everybody kind of develops uh, in a nice momentum. So that's basically the role of these folks that you see on the screen. There's one role I didn't talk about, which is the project manager. This is a bit of a generalist role. It can depend from project to project, team to team. But the main idea behind a project manager is they look after the overall health of the project. So they'll make sure that the other actors on the team, so the engineers, the managers, the testers, all of them are happy, and they're working in the most productive way possible. So they'll look after their vacation time. They'll also make like project timelines, which the business people might need, to know when the project might be delivered, when we're releasing. So that's kind of what a project manager does. So in summary, like, these folks come together, um, along with some ceremonies, which is our grooming planning and our huddles, and they create the things that they want to create in these dev cycles of 2 weeks is what we decided. And then everything kind of repeats for the next 2 weeks. And we were on this train of like 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, and before you know it, you've been working on this thing for 6 months, and you have an app that you can ship to your users. Which brings us to the conclusion. So a couple of concluding points for all of you. One takeaway I want people to have with this is collaborate as much as possible with people. Um, a lot of us end up working in silos, when we're like building our own things, but that can be lonely and less fun, honestly. So work with the people. Um, get your friends to work with you. Make small teams and make side projects, and like seek out opportunities to work in teams, because I think it definitely adds a whole new dimension to working in tech and working in software. If you can't find a team, if you can't get an opportunity at the moment, you can always almost make your own team and try to emulate different roles on the product team. So maybe like be the product manager for your own projects. A lot of you are already doing this, but maybe learn a bit more about what product managers can do. So for example, I work on my like website and I kind of just product manage it using like a tool. This tool is called Linear, but you could make a board like this for any of your projects using even Notion, for example. So yeah, just uh, be your own product manager. And finally, yeah, if you want, you should definitely dig into software estimation. It's a big rabbit hole, and there's lots to learn over there. And finally, like never forget to have fun along the way, because I think that's the best part about all of this. We all love to do what we do, and it's important to have fun along the way. And yeah, that's about it.